Whoops, so just got back from Rona. So our fan came with this disgusting rubbery floor and it's all like oily. First we're just taking this out. We're Jennie and James, two Canadians from the opposite sides of Canada who met in Whistler in 2015.
This is where our van life journey began, with our first and second camper vans before moving abroad.
Having done van life in Canada and Australia, we've experienced the bitter cold, the extreme heat, and a whole lot of ups and downs.
In the summer of 2020, we decided it was time to take our hobby to the next level and build camper vans full time.
After building several vans, we want to share with you what we've learned. Subscribe and follow along in our first build series where we show you how to do everything from square one to the finishing touches. So just to explain why we chose foam board for our flooring, we basically wanted to maximize our standing height because James is about 6'1", and so in order to do that we just chose 1/2 inch foam board. It's got an R value of 3 and that way it just gave us that standing height rather than framing out for spray foam on the floor as well. Would have just raised it a little bit too much, so that's why we decided to do the foam board. The first step was to get rid of this old greasy mat, and then we cleaned the floor so that we had a nice surface to work with moving forward.
So we built this subfloor out of multiple pieces of plywood, and for the first one we just cut a couple notches out of it and then based the sizes of the other ones around it. Okay, so how we cut this part out, I'll just show you really quickly. Basically we just measured kind of where this starts and drew it out here, and then did the same on this side. And so we just made a little box, and then for the rest of it we just sort of sketched out a rough idea of like where the wheel's gonna go, and then we used a jigsaw to cut it all out. And then over here when we were putting it in, we just sort of did the same thing. So we just measured this corner, measured it out to there, and then sort of just did a rough, it was like 1 inches, we just skimmed off this whole part there.
So next we're just gonna use that cutout to trace the other side.
Next, to get the width of our second piece of subfloor, we took our first big piece, put it in the van, and then we measured the space between it and the left wall, and that gave us the width of our second piece. So then we just measured the second piece, cut it to size, and put it right next to the first piece in the van.
Like a glove?
Here, do you guys have the measurements? It's about 65 by 68. Okay. 60.
Thank you.
Next we cut out one big 4x6 rectangle that we put in front of the other two pieces. And then I spent an unfortunate amount of time drawing out that funky shape that's at the front of Promasters before realizing that what I had actually done is drawn out the inverse of what I needed. And then when I redid it, the camera battery died, so I don't have it on film. If you want to learn how to cut funky shapes, stay tuned for the vinyl flooring video because I use the exact same method and explain it in that video.
The next day we used our subfloor pieces and laid them over the insulation foam boards. We then used a Sharpie to trace out the shapes and cut the foam board with an X-Acto knife. From there we placed the foam boards back in the van.
Looking pretty fine.
Like?
Yeah, looks good. So we just had to cut out a few notches in the subfloor that we had already built because we built the subfloor before we put these pieces of wall on, like the little strapping pieces. So the parts we had cut before didn't perfectly fit. So we just had to notch out a couple spots like that, but it's looking pretty nice again.
Alright, so we noticed once we got the foam board into the van with the subfloor on top of it, it was really squeaking quite badly. So we're gonna try to just glue it down to the floor a little bit better. So we've got this PL Premium and we're just gonna glue it to the bottom of the floor and hopefully it stops squeaking around. Whoops, so just got back from Rona because we ran out of the PL like pretty early. And I just found out that regular PL, or this type that we bought, the premium kind, melts foam board. So there's actually specialty PL for foam board that won't melt your board and also won't ruin your insulation value. So learn from us. So we just finished laying all the adhesive and I just wanted to let you know it actually took 2 of these guys. So when you're at the depot, you know what to buy. And this is what it looks like. We just squirted on all the ridges.
It's actually not, it's not squeaking at all.
Nice.
With all the glue laid, we put all the pieces back on and called it a day. Up next, we're installing a vent fin in our roof and then laying some vinyl floors.
Don't forget to subscribe and see you in the next one.